The Commission is joining us now to let us know what actually led to this particular decision. Advocate Bongani Majola, Chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission. Good evening, and thank you very much for your time, Advocate. It's good to have you with us. How do you assess matters relating to hate speech?
Well, there is the law which is called PEPUDA, and there are judgments that have interpreted that law. So we use that law together with the judgments to decide whether or not the matter amounts to hate speech. That is how we interpret hate speech, if I understand your question.
Yeah. Is there room then in your interpretation to consider what would be a literal interpretation of the statement, a metaphorical interpretation of the statement, or what would constitute political commentary?
Well, yes, there is room for that, but I think that one of the things that is very important is also to look at the whole statement, but also to look at the context in which the statement is made. And that will tell you whether it is just mere political banter, or whether it is something that goes beyond the freedom of expression and political banter and goes to the extent of being altogether harmful or to incite harm. And if that's the case, then, it then falls onto the side of hate speech.
Yeah. So, I know you would have seen the statement coming from the economic freedom fighters responding to what they call your media advisory. But I'm curious to know, did you engage with them in this process before issuing the media advisory?
Yes, we did engage with the EFF in writing. We sent them a letter in which we expressed our observations and our, prima facie conclusions, and, gave them time to look at it and decide whether or not they are going to persist with the statements that they made, or whether they are going to retract them and apologize.
So they're of the view that you had already reached a conclusion by the time you wrote that statement to them to say, well, retract or apologize, without having engaged with them for them to explain, as they put it, the academic context, the historical context, and the literal context of what they were saying in those statements, or at least what the leader of the economic freedom fighters was saying in that political commentary.
Well, let me try and explain this. The Commission has got two ways in which it deals with allegations of violations of human rights. The one is to take and register a case, a complaint, and register it, and then decide whether or not to investigate it. If it does investigate, it sends an allegations letter to the respondent, and it does it follows the process of hearing both sides and then comes to a conclusion. But Section 13 also grants the Commission the power to go to court and let the court be the one that decides whether or not it was hate speech or it wasn't hate speech. And we have chosen the latter, and we have written to the EFF and we have told them that in our view, this amounts to incitement of violence, it amounts to hate speech, and may actually also amount to other transgressions of PEPUDA. And we have said that before we take any further steps, we would like to give them an opportunity to reconsider what they said in those statements and see whether they can withdraw or retract those. And if they do not decide, or if they do not agree to do that within a period of 10 days, 10 working days, we will then continue with our option of going to the Equality Court. And it will then be the Equality Court that will decide the matter. They will then have their opportunity to say, this was political speech and so on, and it will then be judged there whether it was political speech or not.
So as the South African Human Rights Commission, I don't want to get into what their debate is, because I'm seeing that this is something that you are going to have to debate at the Equality Court, and you will certainly expand on it a little bit further. But do you then welcome their call to say, well, we are not going to apologize or retract until we go and sit or stand in front of a neutral body that will adjudicate this?
Well, it's not for us to welcome what they are saying. Ours is to do the work that the Constitution and the Act says we must do. In other words, we've got to promote human rights, we've got to protect those whose rights are being violated, and to monitor that there is observance of human rights in the country. And what we're trying to do now is to, follow the stream of protecting human rights, because the statements that say people should be killed means that their right to life should be taken away. And the Constitution is very categorical. And the Makwanyane judgment is also very categorical about the value of the right to life and the right to dignity. And so ours, we would be failing if we do nothing when we hear threats to life in this country.
Are you concerned at all that the Commission would be now entering what they call bounds of restricting free speech?
No, we're not concerned about what, that we are going to enter the bounds of free speech, because in our view, and having looked at the judgments of the courts, even free speech has got limitations. And when those limitations are exceeded, it calls upon the Commission to exercise the powers that it has and to actually perform the duty that the Constitution imposes on the Commission to protect the rights that are threatened by such speech.
Advocate Majola, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on, Chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission there. Of course, they are saying it's not for them to welcome what action or what response will be coming from the EFF, but if the matter is to go then before a neutral body, so be it, and that is where those representations would then need to be made.